I think for most artists, maybe writers, or Shahrnush Parsipur herself, she built these characters, part of their characters, they're an aspect of Shahrnush Parsipur, I'm absolutely sure. There's kind of, I know Shahrnush, so, but I think as an artist, every time I take a character, I take a story and I make it my own. And I think it's the only way to be really honest with your audience without being autobiographical. I think an aspect of you sort of gets woven into the nature of the character. For example, when I look at these 4 or 5 women, every one of them carries an aspect of my own weaknesses and strength as a human being. I mean, if I mention a few, for example, with Munez, there's a part of me who wants to be an activist, who wants to fight for social justice, for democracy, for all the things that are outside of myself, my own narcissistic interests. There's an aspect of me, like Faize, who just wants to have a normal life, who wants to have a traditional life, to believe in something, to have traditional values, which I've never had, really. And then to have Zarine and her relationship to her body, the question of sin, and the question of how us women very often punish ourselves for everything that happens outside. I really relate to that. I understand that as a woman. It doesn't matter, as an Iranian woman, as a woman. And I think with Farrokh Lega, who you haven't seen in this video installation, but I will show you some clips, is a woman coming to age, or middle age, and still wanting to stay young, to start over again, to have a new beginning, to be an individual, to be admired. Much of it is self-narcissistic, but I think I have that too. So I think in every one of these women, both their courage, in a way, in taking certain things in their own hand, but also their weaknesses and their dilemmas really mirrors me. And I felt that was the most honest way to reach your audience, so they see themselves in those women and see that we actually always have this plus and minuses, and we're always struggling.
In the case of the Nobel Prize winner Herta Müller, one talks about witness literature, and the same thing could be said about Imre Kertész. They both transform personal experiences into art, into literature. And I'm curious if one can say maybe the same thing about your work. You transform your own experiences, obviously, into photography and film, also to full-length feature films nowadays. And so, what do you think? Do your visual art, do your artworks, actually, are they witnesses? Can one talk about witness art, witness literature versus witness art?
Witness or weakness?
Witness.
Ah,
witness.
okay, I like weakness better.
Witness. I'm sorry for my pronunciation.
You know, I think one thing that is really, really important to keep in mind, that the only reason I came to making of art was very personal and intimate reason. And that was really confront a lot of personal issues that I experienced as a woman, as an Iranian woman. And it had nothing to do with the world, it had to do with me. And so I have to always remind myself the intimacy of the work, which is the personal aspect of the work, that many people think that I am somehow the speaker or the ambassador of the Iranian, at least the artistic community, or the Muslim woman, etc. It's absolutely wrong. I think what's really important to keep in mind, the absolute intimacy of the work, and then if that is removed from the work, it will lose meaning. And so the emotional, aspect of that work, I mean, maybe I'm going away from the witness, I'm going with the weakness. But the imperfection and the idea of the intimate relationship I built with the audience is very important. However, my work is not just a monologue, it's a dialogue, because I think part of my life, of course, has been defined by a force that is larger than me, which is politics, the revolution, the way in which I'm separated from my family, my country, and the way that we share, many of us, the same situation. So our lives are defined by the power of politics and certain people who rule the politics. And in a way, I think for many Iranians, this question always comes up: why politics so much? Because I don't think we have the luxury to distance ourselves from the reality of politics, because our lives are so interconnected to the daily events that happen in the political sort of arena. So therefore, always the personal aspect of my life comes very close to the social political. And therefore the monologue becomes a dialogue. So I'm not interested to telling other people about my personal life, but within the work that I create, a lot of personal issues are pulled into. So this is why that the work, no matter if it's a photograph or it's a feature film or a video, is always about this navigation between deeply personal and social, the spiritual versus political, the very ethnically specific issues about Iran to largely universal issues, the poetry versus the political, and so I'm not sure if I answered.
Fine.
But
well, actually, I think for most Iranian, we know that the way we Iranians seem to like to best express ourselves has been throughout history through poetry, the use of metaphors. This could be partially because we've had a very dark history. We've had one dictator after another that has censored us. We've never been able to say what we want to say up front. So magic realism, like poetic language, is the most subversive way to say everything that you cannot say up front, the use of symbolic language. Naturally, I think, for example, Shahrnush Parsipur, I think the reason the book is banned, as surrealistic as it is, and the fact that it takes place in 1953, but it's subversive in the way that it touches the question of religion and certain taboos. But I really think that, in a way that in some ways also beautifully has one foot in very important, timeful, historical, political realities of Iran, but yet has, through the magic quality, has a foot in totally ephemeral, universal, timeless issues that are very philosophical and have nothing to do with Iran. So magic realism in a way serves different purposes. It allows you to reach a larger audience. It's obviously used by a lot of artists, writers living in exile, very interestingly. So in some ways, the surrealistic way allows you to transcend the specificities of a culture and sort of reach another plateau, but also it allows you to be very subversive. So the film, for example, that I've made based on this is very subversive in a way that, there's a lot of metaphors, there's a lot of meanings, there's a lot of symbolism in terms of every character is symbolic of something else. So I think it comes with the Iranian sensibility, for us to express ourselves with the form of symbolism and metaphor. And magic realism, surrealism, it seems to fit us best.
Mm-hmm.